Welcome to this week's edition of Creative Current. I'm Cynthia Foster. This is my husband, Karel Samsom.
I'm Karel Samsom. This is my wife, Cynthia Foster.
And we're the owners of the Venice Beach Eco-Cottages. That's where we are today. The cottages are 3 craftsman cottages built in the 20s here in Venice. And they were originally vacation cottages when they were first built. They're on Grand Boulevard, and Grand Boulevard used to be the Grand Canal. And we looked for properties in Venice that we could renovate to take them back to their original intent. Vacation cottages in Venice near the canals. So we were living next door, and we were renting and looking all over Venice. And we kept eyeing these cottages, and they were in terrible shape. They had been crack houses in the 80s, and they hadn't been much improved since then. So they were perfect for our purposes.
And my interest was also very much in reusing it rather than having it torn down. And even a more beautiful building could have been here. But so we got that together. Cynthia's artistic inclinations and my idea of use and reuse, and that's how we started. We'd never done anything like this before. We did some stuff in Vermont, in the other place that we have, but this was a big scale, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it combined the skills that we'd learned from those other projects. We'd both renovated properties over the years, and Karel taught sustainable business for many years, environmental economics, sustainable marketing, and what he guided the project with was that sustainable approach to business. We used a triple bottom line approach, which is what he taught: people, planet, and profits. We look at all 3 of those things for our bottom line. Not only how much money can we make, but what is the effect on the planet, and what is the effect on the people who are involved, the people who work here and who stay here and who read about the place or watch videos about the place. Part of that sustainable vision came through in what Karel was talking about, of wanting to reuse these buildings. Like, we recycle a lot of things. We recycle paper, we recycle bottles. We recycled 3 whole buildings. These buildings would have wound up in the landfill. All around Venice, they're disappearing. And we just did everything we could to use the resources that we had on site. It's the least impactful environmentally to use what's already here. The windows are an example of Karel's concept of externalization. So we had these cheap windows. We donated those to Habitat for Humanity. We wanted to have windows that were suited to these cottages, beautiful 9-light windows from the 20s. And so we went to junkyards and architectural salvage and dug for windows. We went every few days to the junkyards and dug around, and it's a very different way of doing a construction project. It turns it into more of an art project. So the windows that we found came from a house in Mar Vista that had been dismantled. And we have these lovely matching 9-light windows all the way across this side on all 3 cottages, thanks to that house. So had we bought these windows at a box store, which is usually what's done with renovation or new construction, we would have gotten brand new windows, very functional, that probably had been made in China, in terrible working conditions by workers who are not protected or paid well, in a manner that was probably harmful to the planet. There's no real oversight there. Those windows would have then been packaged in a lot of materials, put in a transport, shipped across the ocean, maybe to Texas, to some distribution point, put in another car, shipped to the different stores, the one here in LA, put in another car and brought here. And all of that so that we could have cheap box store windows. We bypassed all of that impact on the planet that normally is externalized. That's externalization. That the cost of those cheap box store windows is slave labor, polluting the planet, and an impact far beyond what most of us ever even think about. And so using that as a guiding principle, that cradle to grave, what's going to happen? Where did this come from? How did it get here? Where is it going? Looking at a holistic image. You have to look at that impact. You have to take it all into account. And one of the things I love about Karel,
one of the
many things that I love about Karel is he's always had a commitment to service and the community and an awareness of our interconnectedness. And to bring that into business as a business approach has been beautiful. We've made, I think, a real difference in these buildings in our little corner of Venice. And we've had people stay here who've really responded to them in ways that maybe they don't even understand. They feel right. They just feel right. And there's integrity here.
One of the things that I very much learned in my career is that it's not only good for the environment, as Cynthia said, but it's actually economically very attractive to do these things. There's lots of evidence that we're throwing things away that could easily be reused because they're wrongly priced, they're too cheap and people don't want to change them, or because any other kind of reasons we just go for the goal. And so the underlying philosophy, so I'm an ecological economist and an entrepreneur, as you are, and the underlying idea of the ecological economics, which is growing in all countries, including the United States, it basically says that whatever you do, at the end of the day, you cannot exceed the capacity of the ecology of the earth to absorb the side effects of economics. And that was basically the theme that I brought in, not a statement of art, but more maybe a statement of craft, if you want to say it that way. So I had never done anything like this other than talking to students of mine or in projects when I was a business executive. And so it was like a dream come true for me, particularly the artistic part, which I knew very little about. I just was there, to say, don't do stupid things. If you're an economist or an ecologist, don't do stupid things. They're the same thought process. And even as an American by choice, over so many years, and I've lived in many countries, I've now seen that the US used to be a very expediency-based economy, and it's changing because the US also, the people in the US also love their country, and they see more and more that they're burning the, what do you call it? At two sides, you call it?
Oh, burning the candle at both ends?
Yeah, they're burning the candle at two ends, and not only the Americans, the Chinese do it too. And so it's a transition, it's a philosophical transition from saying, I want that car, and then pursue and buy that car, to a proposition where you're saying, well, before we do that car, let's see what that car does to us, for us, in the service that we want. But also, what does it do to other people, and eventually all of us? Not just neighbors, but maybe our own children, or the grandchildren, that sort of thing. And that's a philosophy that in the end, funnily enough, whether you believe it or not, makes more money.
Mm-hmm. Here we are, 5 years. And we had to pay a little extra to do some of the things we did. But it made a difference. It was a part of the whole package. And in other places, we saved a lot of money. So I wouldn't say don't do sustainable building because it's going to cost more. That's not true. We had a budget, and we made choices within that budget. And we did the most sustainable choices that we could at each step. And we had splurges, and we had places where we saved, and we had beautiful, unexpected resources come up. For instance, we have solar panels on top of this cottage. We're in Aunt Zoe's place. And the panels provide about 85–90% of our power, electrical power, to all 3 cottages. It's very important that they get full sunlight here in Venice all day so that we can maximize that output. But we have these beautiful eucalyptus trees on the corner big old eucalyptus trees that have been here probably as long as the cottages have been here. And they shaded the house. So we wanted to we had to trim the branches back, but I love these trees. I didn't want them to get damaged, so we had a tree surgeon out from tree people up in Coldwater Canyon. And he came out and removed the branches, and we saved the wood. We took them out to the desert, had it seasoned there, and then milled into mantles that are now over the fireplaces in 2 of the cottages. And so that is a common sense thing. Our grandparents did that. If you cut a tree on your land, that's your resource. Here in LA, people pay people to take the wood away. It kind of doesn't make sense. We've gotten away from a lot of common sense things that are the most sustainable. I find stuff at flea markets, and I'm always hauling stuff home, odds and ends, furniture and pots and pans and things. And from that collection, we made other things. So for instance, the chandelier in this cottage has these little cherries hanging from it. The frame of that chandelier I found cheap at a flea market. And then the cherries are actually made from an old necklace that I had, the little cherries, that was part of the necklace. And then the crystals I found at other flea markets. So it's all stuff that was already in existence and with a little craftiness put back together for new life. Our pot racks over the ovens are bugles. Part of that, that's what I wanted to get back to. That you said it was maybe the craft of things and not the art, but it came into the art. That ethos came into the art, so that as we made our building choices, it influenced the aesthetics of the place based on what we found. So because we made those priorities about saving our resources, those branches for instance, we have these mantles that we couldn't have imagined when we started the project. So we had these gifts. Those horns, I was looking for things to hang the pots from, and I knew I didn't want to just buy new pot racks. I tried not to buy new anything. And so I would scour the flea markets and the thrift stores for form, not function. So I was looking for like a long, sturdy metal thing. And there were all kinds of, golf clubs, long, sturdy metal. Bicycle wheel, that's going to be my next one. Hang it with the hub, right? You can spin it and have your pots hang from it. But the ones I landed on were the horns. I had this recurring dream for years that there were extra rooms in my home. And I would find this door and open it, and there were all these extra rooms there that I didn't know about. And over the year, the dream expanded, and in each room, there would be art, music, painting, sculpture, dance. In the years before we bought the cottages, we were living in New York, and I had the dream there, and the door was gone that separated the room. So it was my home, it was our home then in the dream, and all of these other rooms with art and music, and our friends were there, and there was a big party. And it was the most beautiful evolution of this dream over the years. Right after we opened the cottages, I was contacted by a choreographer, Christine Suarez. She was looking for a place to do a site-specific dance piece, to choreograph a site-specific dance piece. And she was having a little hard time finding someone to cooperate. The name of the piece was Wet Spots, Tiny Dances of the Female Orgasm. And she was a little shy about sharing that with me, but she had no idea she came to exactly the right place. So we hit it off, and she choreographed this dance installation in all 3 cottages with simultaneous performance in all 3, and brought people through in groups. And it was so thrilling and such beautiful work. And the first stop, or one of the first stops, is in the front cottage. She had 2 amazing dancers there. A cellist was playing. And in the cottages, we have art by Venice artists. We had our friends there, and I realized I was sitting in that dream. I was sitting in the midst of that dream that I had had all those years, and that it had manifest. It had made its way out of our imaginations from Karel's business years of business practice, and my creative imagination, and we both dreamed into this project together. And it was at that moment I realized this was really such a synthesis of who we are. Yeah, what we both brought to.
Yeah, it was just tremendous, and I found out then afterwards that, you know, all I had to do is take a couple of shots into my lectures, and people were just amazed, because it wasn't a didactic connection, it was just a total different way of explaining to my students that they could have many more options. And these are all business students, it's not like a bunch of artists there. I only taught business students and people who are related to business and economics. And so this worked great, and the other interesting thing is what I said before, is that we often think of sustainability as giving back, which we are, but we are giving back. You know, we're paying more for sustainability than for non-sustainability. But the fact of the matter is, we're not really paying more for it. We're saving it for later. That's what we're doing. So we still have it, and you can see this in most of the people that come here. They got it, one way or another. And I think that was the artistic expression that led them out of this thought. You know, if I want to go here, this is the best and the fast way to go there. And when you come in here, you find out that there is so much authenticity, and if you don't understand it, there's so more questions. People say, well, where did these come from? You know, how did you come up with that? I've never seen one like that. And so the stories become part of the value. And at the end of the day, people really like that. And so at the end of what I see now after 5 years is that we have repeat people. We have a tremendous amount of publicity. We have rarely, if ever, advertised this. I mean, from day to day, it amazes me that we hardly ever have empty cottages.
We have a lot of creative people stay with us. It's a great place to come on a little artist retreat. We had a painter actually who stayed in the back cottage for almost a year. She came for a month and she loved it and stayed for a year. And
we gave her a special rate.
And she painted the cottages in the neighborhood. There's a painting here in this cottage of a Matryoshka doll, a Russian doll, and another of the painters, Anne Vecchioni, she's a local artist, did that as a portrait of me. So sweet. And we've had a lot of artists stay here. We had some songwriters in the front cottage who, while they were here, wrote a jingle that they sold to McDonald's. They get to now retire on that. We've had screenwriters, producers, directors, singers, playwrights, photographers.
Foreigners.
We have people from all over the world, people into sustainability and design. We've met such fascinating people. Royalty, celebrities, eco-warriors.
Obviously it works commercially because we never advertise, it's just word of mouth. And you know, at the end of the day, maybe it teaches us all a different way of thinking. We found this and it intrigued us, and in our particular case we didn't do it for the money. We didn't do it to lose money either. We just wanted to do something cool for ourselves and our feelings. And it is
and for the money.
And
that's
for
just the truth.
Well, it is. We wanted to have it both ways.
We wanted to have both. We wanted to be able to earn a living
in
a sustainable, ethical way, in a joyful way that expressed authentically who we both are. Some of the other items that were repurposed or reused, we talked about the chandeliers and the pot racks, the mantel places. There's also these curtains here. These were actually tablecloths that we had made into curtains. On the curtain rod itself, at the end, the finials are doorknobs. Doorknobs that had been on the bathroom door in this cottage. In the bathroom, on the floor, the floors are made of cork tiles, which had been wine corks repurposed into tiles, cut, what do you call that?
Sliced.
Sliced and turned into tiles. Let's see. Oh, the vanity in the bathroom in this cottage used to be a end table for bedroom, and the end tables in the bedroom used to be sewing machine bases. And let's see, the vanity in the front cottage used to be an old Victrola cabinet. That's my favorite one. It's What little we bought new, we wanted to make really energy efficient. So the washer, dryer, fridge, the electronics, they're all Energy Star rated. We researched the companies and chose companies that had minimal packaging, that were conscious about distribution. And there's a lot of things that you can do.
Didn't beat the workers, you know.
Yeah, didn't beat the workers. Things that you can do to kind of vet the companies you do business with. It takes a few extra steps.
Yeah.
And we know we made those choices consciously. It feels good.
And the other thing, of course, is we didn't want to be purer than pure.
And some of the things we didn't do so great.
Yeah, and one of the things is our whole media center there behind you.
We didn't really want to have the whole media center, but because of the nature of the cottages, we also have dishwashers, not things, microwaves that we would have put in for us, but because we have them open to the public, people want to use those things. So we made the best choices that we could given that. So it's not like you have to do everything perfectly. We didn't do everything perfectly.
No.
We did everything to the best of our ability, but the thing was asking the questions, being in that process. What Karel was talking about, that step-by-step process, and looking at it holistically, and not just automatically buying the easy thing. Yeah, making the easy choice. We have full house water filtration, so that you're getting bottled quality water from the taps, you're showering in filtered water. And that's the science side of it. But the soulful side of that is honoring the water. Honoring the water enough to purify it. Honoring our guests enough to offer them pure water. That's a blessing, that's a sacrament, offering that. And it's one of the other things that we did with the cottages that's invisible to the people who stay here, but I feel infuses the place with a different feeling, which is we really honored the land, we honored the trees, we honored the water, we honored the buildings, and we had a shaman come out and bless the land and clear the land. We've had blessings of each of the cottages at various times for various reasons, and while no one knows, when they come from Iowa to visit their kids up the street, they don't want to know about that stuff. If I told them, they'd probably be freaked out. But when you sit here, you feel this goodness, you feel this restfulness. And so mom and dad from Iowa will call or email the next day and say, we've never slept so good. We slept so well last night. And instead of hanging out at the kids' house, we had them come over here because it's so cozy and welcoming. And I think it's beyond the science of it and beyond even the art of it, into the soul of it, into the intention of it.